John Mahama has been sworn in for a second term as Ghana's president at the ceremony in the capital, Accra, with around 20 African leaders in attendance. Mahama won 56% of the vote in the nation's presidential election on December 9, defeating the ruling party candidate and vice president, Abamoya, who secured 41%. Mahama takes over from the outgoing president, Nana Akufo, who served 2 terms in power. Among those present were Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Senegal's Bassirou Faye, Burkina Faso's leader Ibrahim Traoré, Kenyan President William Ruto, President Felix of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and the Gabon's BRICS were all the leaders at the inaugural ceremony. Mahama, who led Ghana previously from early 2017, previously failed twice to win back the presidency. But in the December's election, he managed to tap into the expectations of change among the people of Ghana. And this is what the president of Nigeria said to the Ghana president: "I'm here to work with you." He was giving those assurances to the new president of Ghana. Take a listen to what President Tinubu said earlier to that Ghana.
Party leader as prime minister after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election.
A breaking transmission will bring what President Tinubu said earlier today at Ghana, where he was heralding, saying that it's a new era for prosperity for the people of Ghana to strengthen in collaboration with the Nigerian people. President Tinubu said, even when we disagree, we must choose a path of peaceful dialogue at all times. Your new president is a man of patriotic vision and substance. He loves his nation and the people to the core. He said that to the people of Ghana earlier today at the Black Star Square in a bid to also recognize his presence for continuous intentions of collaboration between the people of Ghana and Nigeria. But just before we get into the conversation tonight on the show, let me still bring to you what the president said earlier today.
You know, you can count on Nigeria's support at any given time. You call on me. We are your brothers and sisters. We shall always be there for you. May your administration be a profound success and progress for you, Ghanaians, and the entire region. I am confident a new government under the leadership of President John Mahama will work with Nigeria to strengthen this powerful bond, leading to greater shared progress, prosperity for the people of our 2 nations. I have no doubt that your administration will bring about positive change and progress.
Part of the speech of the president earlier today at Ghana in a bit of recognizing the new president, Mahama John, who has returned back to the top of the office of the Ghana, the People of the Republic of Ghana. Tonight on the show, away from that, we'll be looking at addressing questions surrounding President Tinubu reforms, data reliability, credibility, and have continued to throw the key economic indices in the country. We've looked at the many government has said we are taking on reforms to be able to reshape the future of this country. But it looks at many Nigerians are still saying that these reforms are greater with hardship, are greater with hunger, are greater with some factors that looks like government are not paying attention to what it really means to have government in place. Tonight we'll try to see what the projection of the part of government, what possibly may be the reality on ground. How can Nigeria get better for the people of Nigeria? The president also tasked governors to go back to their state, to develop their state, and also enhance economic productivity from their region. And that's the reason he said he actually supported the local government autonomy. But all of that has continued to be a concern tonight. We'll still dissect on these reforms. Are these reforms getting the people better? Is the future of this country protected? Is it served with all of the reforms that have been taken by the government? Tonight on the show, I'm being joined by the National Secretary of African Action Congress, Ina Akopy-Agu, is my guest tonight on the show to express all of this concern. Thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Mike.
Happy New Year.
Same to you, my brother. How are you?
Very, very well, and good to have you on the show tonight.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah.
It looks that 2024 was a very tough year for some Nigerians, but government said we needed to set back and we needed to give a better projection for this country, that we never had all of those resources to continue to service. What they said was wastage, wasteful government, subsidy removal, floating of naira pen, subsidizing dollar for some few Nigerians, and all of those concerns. He has come with a lot of reforms. It looks that the president is still talking very tough on those reforms. He's still speaking as a man who knows what he's doing. He's on top of the game compared to probably, you may say, the last administration, where it looks that the president was saying the other thing, and ministers were saying the other thing. But this time, the president is having a direction. Is that clearly what you feel?
Thank you very much, Mike, for having me. It's always a pleasure being here. Considering that you brought me here on very short notice. But I honor you because I know this is very important. But then back to the question. In your opening statement, you said things around how Nigerians fared in 2024. I have been in Nigeria for as long as I've lived. And I've been operating within the system for quite a while. I can't tell you if I've ever experienced anything as difficult as the last 1 year, 2024. Nigerians were thrown into a situation where they had no idea how to handle. A lot of people lost their financing, and they lost their position. Jobs were lost because companies were closing down. So it was a very difficult year. And of course, you can't blame anybody but put that squarely at the footstep, at the doorstep of the current president's economic agenda. Excuse me. One of the first things, you've said something alluding to that, was the removal of the subsidy. Without a clear plan as to how to proceed after that. Subsidy was removed, you floated the naira. We are a country that is heavily dependent on importation. Prices of crude weren't doing that well. But then Nigerians, a lot of them found themselves in the rain without an umbrella. And it continued that way for more than from January, from when the president was sworn in 2023, up until January last year. There was no way out for anybody. Christmas that just ended and the New Year just ushered in. I know how long and how painful it was for some people to spend their holiday. So they didn't fare well. You have said things like, you have alluded to some of the things the president has said. From our standpoint, it is almost clear to us that we want to also see them, like we described Jonathan and President Buhari, as unsure of what they're doing, as without imagination, to be honest with you. Because when you make decisions, we have had even people within their party, the APC, attack the system and the plan of the president towards Nigerians. It clearly didn't work. And we were hoping that somehow they would have had some and then, sorry to also digress, the security situation in the country didn't help matters. Whilst they were trying to tackle Boko Haram in the northeast, we had specters of insurgency in the middle belt, and then suddenly another group emerged from the northwest and terrorizing the entire country. For a country that is heavily dependent, especially our rural people, on farming, were found all through 2023, 2024, a system where people who were farm dependent couldn't go to the farm. And so, so we wonder why they were wondering why the prices of foodstuffs and everything went up. So if you ask me for an assessment, I would give them a failing grade. I think that they could have done better, but that is not to say that everyone else suffered. Some people suffered, others in government were having a nice time. And you can see it was in the same 2024 when Nigerians were struggling to eat that we bought a private jet for the president.
So it wasn't necessary?
50 million. I think it was unnecessary. We have also seen the president even a few days ago flying from here to Lagos. You know, when you tell people to tighten their belt, they should also see you doing the same. He flew from here to Lagos in his A330 jet and flew the same jet from Lagos to Enugu to commission project. That's laudable that you went there to commission project. But in my opinion, flying such a huge jet for a 15 minutes flight time, it seems to me that it is wasteful. And it speaks to a government that will tell you to do one thing and they do another. I mean, I'm sure they have smaller jets in their fleet. When you want us to lead, you want to lead and you're leading us, show by example. It was painful to us to watch how our country went almost down the drain in 2024. This is hoping that 2025 will be different. But then again, Mike, 2025 is a foothill for 2027. After 2025, next year is what? 2026. It becomes almost an election year.
So
what
the concern will be...
So the concern will be how to get re-elected and all that, and then a certain developmental project will be left to ruins, and you can bet on that because that has been the practice over the years. So if you ask me to grade them, I'll give them a failing grade, and I have facts to defend that. Thank you.
When we look at the timing, those that said, look that the reform is coming at the right time, because for them, it really looks that we couldn't continue to do the same thing over and over again to expect different results. Even in leadership, they will tell you change approaches of leadership. If a transformational leader, they will ask you to transform things. And that those that see that change sometimes comes with difficulties, change sometimes comes with sacrifices, change sometimes comes with pains. In your way, would you say that the timing that all of these reforms is taking place is wrong?
No. There's no late time for reforms. If a system is not working, it is important that it is reformed. But when you are reforming a system, you should also have a plan in place to cushion any difficult times that might come up. I'm sure we didn't have that. If we did, it didn't show. You took off subsidy. You must know that the moment you touch subsidy, and I've told you on this program several times, our party were clearly against removal of subsidy. We had a different approach to it that would not have thrown Nigeria into the chaos situation. But if you're suggesting the removal of subsidy, what was in place? It seems to me like the CNG approach to cushion transportation, it was more like people just thinking, okay, what do we do now? Let's bring in CNG buses. It wasn't part of the plan. CNG began to be talked about in 2024. You remove subsidy in April or so of 2023. So all through 2023, we're basically swimming in nothingness. Do you get what I mean? So there's no late time to bring in a reform. But when you're bringing in a reform, it has to be reasonable. It has to be measured. You have to also take the people you are trying to reform for into cognizance. You have to recognize the place they fit. Let me tell you something shocking. Last year, I was involved in the training of some major farms in this country. You know, I was contracted to train top management farmers in this country, and that was in October. And in the course of the 3 weeks training that I did for senior management, that particular sector that I trained them, they told me things that left me almost in tears because of these reforms that the president brought in. Over 40% of smallholder farmers around that particular sector disappeared because of this subsidy removal. One, they could not care no more. The prices of commodities and prices of inputs jacked up. and so they could not hold up. Imagine 40% of a major sector disappearing. Now think of where those people might be. Some may have gone into depression and then they can't eat. That was what happened. Now imagine for a few moments that when you were taking up subsidy, you mapped out this different critical sector, especially in the agri sector, and say, okay, these particular funds will go to these specific farmers to help them directly to stay afloat. If you take subsidy from somewhere, subsidize other people. I mean, the people who suggested subsidy to this regime subsidize their own people. So why is our own different? Why are we doing copycat? Where has it worked before? You get what I mean? So I think reform is good. We have also seen reforms around the tax reforms that are coming. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But for the removal of subsidy without concrete plans in place to caution the effect was, to my mind, a waste of opportunity. And Nigerians continue to suffer. Things are not getting better. Of course, NBC came up with data to support, to say that the economy has improved. And
that's not the reality on ground.
No, but is it the reality? If it's the reality on ground, you should feel it. I mean, you should feel it. But most people have, it is the opinion of a lot of people that those figures were cooked up.
What if it's back with statistics? And do we question how they come about those statistics?
Yes, because the people who even generated the statistics, you should even question their integrity. I mean, the agency responsible for generating data. How do they collect
that will go to questioning our institutions.
Yes, you can question it, because our institution, a lot of them, have they done well?
They ought not to compromise in terms of data that defines our economy.
Can I tell you something? Data is very important. In my last appearance on your program, we talked about poverty alleviation. And I remember pointing you to places where we copied poverty alleviation from China. China did not begin to adopt policy alleviation until they had data to work with. Now they will come and tell you that people are receiving 5,000. Where is the data? How are you sharing the 5,000? I can guarantee you, I was in the village not too long ago. I made the point to ask the people in the rural areas, if anybody gave you any 5,000, I said, no, where? I mean, so who are the people you're giving this thing to? But if there are data, you don't need to give this money and people cannot quickly refer to it and find that you have done it. And given the integrity of some of the people who have handled such schemes before, it begs the question, how are they even doing it? Because we had the same story under the previous regime. The people who did those distribution, according to them, are answering questions at the EFCC. Why can't we do it better? Why are we rushing to do poverty alleviation where you don't have the people captured in a net and you're saying these are the numbers we're given this, and if there was a request for you to produce it, you can produce to the last person and say, okay, this particular family has so number of people, we give them 5,000. That clearly, to my mind, except if they have data to support it, they should tell us. And you would see, by the time this government is gone, and then you begin to see them hunting people who handled such schemes under this government. And I hope that is not the case. But clearly, man, I think that a lot is desired of them. And I think from 2025, as you go towards the end of this year, you will begin to see the focus shift from doing proper development to trying to win the next election.
Well, we should get the governance right first, because that's the most important
governance
thing.
Right, my brother.
Before we have a convention about
Exactly.
2027.
Exactly.
Recently, the presidential candidate of Labour Party has challenged the president to take a walk to some states, visit some places by road, and also to feel the pulse of the people. But over many broadcasts of the president, he said, I know the parents of Nigerians, I acknowledge how all of this has impacted, all of the reforms, all of the policies has impacted on Nigerians. Just give me some more time and all of that. Would you feel that this is a man in Aso Rock that is clearly disconnected from the reality on ground? Or is it just about issues of just opposition critics, probably with the fact that it's backed by some political jealousy?
I'm not a supporter of Mr. Peter Obi, because just like if you listen to my own presidential candidate during the last election, Mr. Showore, the comrade, when he was interviewed in one of those platforms, and he told them, he said, they wonder why he didn't team up with Obi in the last election. He said, look, he has a problem with anyone who has governed the state at any level, local government, state, or the federal, and you cannot show the people what you have done. See,
So is that a concern?
yeah, it's a concern, because if you must hold people to account, let us also see what you have done. Obi is, in my mind,
They
it's
said
not
he
different
also
from
gave his
Tinubu.
best in Anambra and all
What
of
the
that.
best? Have you not been to
In the
Anambra
educational
before?
sector.
Which educational sector? No. Let us talk now based on fact.
But many
that
Nigerians-
he is not the topic of discussion. The day you want us to talk like that, call me. We'll talk.
No, it's important
But
because
let me-
if we say we are in opposition, it
I
means
am-
that
see,
the voices of
I
opposition
am-
must be together.
I am an opposition, and I'm telling you that Obi, Mr. Obi, that has spoken is saying this thing about Mr. Tinubu, that we do not also think he's doing anything right.
But can we take the message and leave the
No.
personality?
Yeah, you can take the message. He's doing his best in that space, but we're also saying that if they decide to hold him to the records of what he did before, I mean, they have started pointing hands at him and saying, when you were in Enugu.
Everything said he's a
Anambra,
prophet of the doom.
what did you do? Who can wake up today? The same Mr. Obi send his children to, if the children were small, would he send them to the schools in Anambra? Does he attend hospital in Anambra? Just like our own president goes to another country to do this thing. So, see, let's face the fact. Mr. President, who is our current president, there is a lot is desired of him. If you ask any opposition person who is speaking from two sides of the mouth, we don't know how to speak from two sides of the mouth. We think that he is failing and he needs to wake up. The mandate is his.
But he's saying, I understand the pains.
What pain do you want?
Because it would have been one thing if the president probably was saying things are working and all of those.
If he was understanding of our pain, when he was muted that they wanted to buy a private jet worth $150 million, since he heard what the people were saying from the grassroots, did they say go ahead or no? What was the overwhelming opinion? People said, no, this is not the right time. Did he go ahead to buy it or not? No. Since he's feeling the pulse from the grassroots, the grassroots are not in support of that kind of thing. We think that at the time it was done, not that the president does not need a new jet, but then when you time this thing properly, you also gauge the mood of the people, of the nation. People are suffering. He cannot tell me he's suffering. I mean, in the same year, he bought an Escalade, a bulletproof Escalade, which is also good for him. But
The security of the president is paramount.
It's
Even if you were to be the president.
If I was the president, I would have also ensured that our security is paramount. But then I will also look at the times and say, okay, are there alternatives to this? Can we put this down for now and do it later? You know. But then we can speak to other things that I think that has happened that is looking like
He has
a bright
cut down on
light.
the foreign trips of his cabinet.
No, of course. But then when you cut down on the foreign trips of the cabinet, and we're still hearing that people are doing things around finance that is not good. I mean, I saw in the papers today, people are still, it is surprising to me that I saw one of the agency that is in charge of anti-corruption dismissing 27 of their people because of corruption. I think that by way of payment, I heard that they have tried to centralize payment of contractors from the attorney or accountant general's office. I don't know how that is working well. Let us get to another regime. We'll know what happened during this regime. But I think that is a welcome development. But I also think that the reforms should not just stop at tax reforms or saying you want to.
Because
I don't know if I should add more.
I was to come to that.
Go ahead.
Because there's a controversy about tax reforms which has appeared to divide the ethnic, regional. Some say it's a northern factor, northern problem versus the southern problem. I mean, is it a question of lack of adequate education or information? Because I've also drawn concern about, look, let's engage the people. Let's have proper consultation. Because the defense of Taiwo to sell the tax bills to the people, you know, he has concluded that is in a good account of the policy direction where we should go with our tax reforms, and he believes that many things will get corrected in terms of multiple taxations and all of those, taxing the poor and leaving the rich and all of those concerns. What would be your comment on this tax reform bill?
Okay, for the tax reform bill, if you see people being afraid of something that is supposed to benefit them, it is fear. Fear of people's antecedents. You get what I mean? I watched the live show when Tayo was still trying to explain how the tax reform would benefit Nigerians. And one of the questions that popped up was, we hope that Lagos will not be replicated in the center. And I don't need to explain what that means to you.
No,
they were accusing that, one of them even said that
a company managing Lagos
exactly,
taxes.
you won't come and hand over the tax collection and consultant to somebody. He said that one will not happen. So the reason I said fear of people's antecedent, they are suspicious of your good move. You call it good, but they are still suspicious because of what may have happened in another situation. Do you get? But then
there's a trust deficit.
Trust deficit. So you can't blame the people when they say you have not done proper consultation. I agree that we need to reform our tax system. I mean, I heard the one in place has been around since 1949. We need something new that is in tune with the times. Now, I have read portions of this this proposal, the tax reform bill, and the place where I do not personally agree with, and I think that people should not come to such discussions with an ethnic bias or religious bias, which is what it seems to be turning into, is the part where they're trying to jack up the VAT from 7.5% to 10%. I would think that if there's no ulterior motive,
but it will eliminate double taxation.
It would, according to them, it would.
If it is increased to 10.
No. See, I think that increasing it to 10 is premature. Why not reform it around the current 7.5 and set a projection for another 2-3 years, and then you can jack it to 10%? Because let us agree, if you jack it from 7.5 to 10%, you would clearly increase pricing. But according to the head of that tax reform system, he said it would bring down prices. I understand what he's saying, but that is almost like textbook arrangement. If it comes to reality, the moment you increase VAT, it would increase the price of products that Nigerians do not even have enough money to buy. So bringing the tax reform, I understand that it is going to solve the problem of derivation, where how tax VAT is shared. A lot of people are not comfortable with that. I think if there's a need to do another education on this bill, there's no need to rush it. Take your time, and don't blame the people, of course, because we have a National Assembly in place today that it seems that once you present something, the next day it is passed.
But can we talk of tax when economy is not really on the right path?
I think that...
Can we have that conversation?
No,
because some people are saying it's not the right time for us to have that conversation and all of that.
Mike, the economy, if you get the tax system well, it helps the economy.
Okay.
Yes. Do you know how much our budget is? 49.74 trillion.
Proposed 2025.
2025 budget. How much is that in dollars? That's like 30 billion. The amount of money one particular country in Europe made from legalizing Indian hemp, you know what they call hemp, marijuana, for medical purposes, was $30 billion. Just one particular product has almost covered your budget. For the size of our country, our budget is too small. Now, if there's anything you can inject into the system to help us grow our revenue and help us raise the value of our budget, I think it is okay. If taxes are properly administered, I'm sure that our economy will jump immediately from what it is today. But then the challenge is, do you now spend? Would they eventually spend what is realized on what it is voted for? Do you get what I mean? So I think the conversation is ripe. From 1949 to today, that's a lot of time gone to be hanging on to a particular old system. This time around, I think it is in order, but you can have it. But let us also let us interrogate the assumptions of that particular tax bill again. That people who do not understand, sit them down and try to get them to understand, and don't try to bamboozle people. And if anybody attacks it, you call the person an enemy of state. Yes.
All right, lastly, before I will let you go, a concern about elections, because some opposition political parties are saying a lot of crises are probably, what they said, have described external forces to be one of those contribution factors towards their crisis they're having in PDP, Labour Party. I don't know if your party also have their own fair share of crisis.
We know that, Mike, it is usually the situation. You must have heard people say things like, we're walking towards a one-party state. I don't think that is a lie. It looks like that's what they're planning. A situation where everybody now rolls to one party and then we have them in power and perpetuate it. But then that will not happen. Now, let's go back to history. It is usually the case that if the government in power in the past, if they see a viral opposition, usually they would clandestinely come inside, send people inside to destabilize leadership. It has happened to the PDP. The PDP is suffering from, has not been able, I think they continue to suffer from 2019, 2023, and they're trying to find their feet. We have the same situation in the Labour Party, and you find all these things springing up. So it is, I think it is a trend. As you're going towards the new election, people are scrambling for where to fight, and that's the problem of this country. We need a judiciary that can begin to administer our system properly. Because when people are not built around parties that have ideology and hold on to their ideology, you find them shifting like that. You will not find them in our party. Our party is secure. We will continue to secure the party. We're going to be on our guard, of course. We know they will try to destabilize like they did before, but this time around, our party is secure under strong leadership, and that continues to drive it towards the future. Well, and for your information, I think I should say this. For a while now, one of the reasons where you could get deregistered as a party is when you don't win any seats in any of the local government, councillorship, governorship, and then the national. Our party came on strong. We won 2 positions in Bauchi and Jigawa. And so currently we have 2 positions, one in Bauchi, one in Jigawa during the last local government election. And we defeated the next person.
You are gathering momentum from the grassroots.
Don't worry, they will know. You see, I say it here and let it be on record. It is coming a time when we will form a government in this country and begin to steer this country aright.
You don't need a major, because I earlier said, okay, what is your concern about major? Because you to get into power.
We have some parties. In the last election, I was part of a group that negotiated a partnership with the PRP. A PRP is also a socialist leaning party like ours. The Labour Party is supposed to be like us, you know, in ideology.
But you don't need Labour Party more.
No, but Labour Party has now become like an orphanage to failed politicians. Once they are looking for where to hide, they go to the Labour Party to try and win elections.
They came third in the last election.
They came third
presidential election.
With packaging. Don't forget, as we begin to move into the future, you will see the separation between the chaff and the wheat.
Is it because of the recent defection from House of Reps?
They will keep defecting until they have no position.
That's your wishes to the Labour Party. All right.
I mean, we told them that this whole charade will not last.
It was just for that. Of course, we'll keep on tracking and see how that works for 2025 election. Mr. Ina Kopiagu is the National Secretary of African Action Congress, ASC. Who has shared a concern about the state of the nation, the concern about all of the impact of the reforms, a projection for 2025 and how these will mean. But you are confident that it looks like things are going to get better in this country. You're optimistic.
If they don't change their course of action, we'll return back here and continue to discuss them till 2027.
All right, we'll keep on tracking, of course, bringing all of that concerns and the effort of government. But government are very optimistic that 2025 inflation will reduce from 34% to 15%. So we give the government benefit of that, and if, as you said, if it doesn't work,
what?
from about 34% to 15%. would it be a miracle?
That's voodoo. What's that? How do you do that with the way things are happening?
But you are not a prophet of the doom.
I'm not a prophet of doom, but when you see the way things are going, you cannot get anything otherwise. The results cannot be otherwise.
Or you give them benefit of doubt.
I am telling you, I thought we were going to talk about the budget.
I'll
the
keep
budget
this.
Of 49 point something trillion. How much has been voted for agriculture, for instance? A chunk of the money will go into recurrent expenditure, about the same amount for capital, and then a higher amount to service the loans that we took from the past. About 16 point something trillion is going into debt servicing, not paying back a loan, servicing it.
Do we even have all of those funds?
Well,
the concern has been
project that revenue is going to turn in like 36 trillion, I think, and then I'm sure the rest will come from borrowing. Further sinking.
Is the issue really about high allocations or implementations of this budget?
First of all, allocation. I think we need to work on allocation to align with international standard and the UN standard. If the UN says a certain percentage to go to education and agriculture, let's do it that way. But that's not what we're doing in this country. And then you also want to talk about the implementation. In a situation where money is voted for something and the project is not executed, but is captured in the budget, what happens to the money? We also need to look at our anti-corruption drive to ensure that people who are walking free, who should be in prison, should not be walking free.
Kopiagu, always a delight to have you on the show, giving a lot of our insight on the state of the nation. We'll continue to track and project and see the differences of the effort of government and how things are getting right. Thanks so much for joining us on the show tonight. And always for always coming to the program.
Thank you, Mike. And you should join our party.
I'm not a politician. Thank you so much. And I will be turning attention to Nigeria's migration policies, which are beginning to be some level of extensive and power designed to address both internal concern and external concern. After the show, we're looking at revisiting those cases. What are the concerns about some of our foreign policies in this country? Do stay with us on the show. I'll be right back. Many thanks for joining us on the show. We'll now turn attention to looking at issues of migration, the policies, as well as Nigeria's foreign policy and the need for security and orderly management of the migratory flows in and out of this country. But it looks that some of these things have not really been visited because in Nigeria there are laws and regulations that restrict some certain, including the security department, incorporated organizations that are in this country, and there are questions been raised about the implementation of some of those policies, like that of Immigration Act of 2015, which says that no person other than a citizen of Nigeria shall be employed or engaged in any capacity whatsoever in the security services of an organization in Nigeria. That has still been a concern about revisiting back the policies of these implementation of the migration policies as Nigeria continues to face long-standing challenges which include resource constraint, institutional wickedness, lack of coordination among stakeholders, and corruption. Professor Ibrahim Abubakar is live here on the show to give us insight on these reforms. Thanks so much, Prof, for joining us on the show. Very fine. A lot of concern about, looking at Immigration Act 2015, because we've seen last year the president was trying to make expedited levy on employment, in external employment, and all of this concern. What would you feel? What is your concern or appraisal about some of these immigration laws and policies that we've had in this country?
Well, the immigration laws are there. Some of the laws are also there when you talk of the national local content and management order. The executive order of the former president Muhammadu Buhari and the rest. You find out that these laws are being flopped every day. Nobody is actually looking at the laws and how to implement them. But let's come to one of the main concerns that really hit the heart. Where in the world have you seen a head of a corporate security and compliance as a foreigner? Only in Nigeria. And why must we allow it go on? Because you can project these people as spies of another nation coming to take advantage of our policies and our people. I am not too sure that, like the head of corporate security in Julius Berger, for example, is somebody who penetrate and have discussions with our internal security agents and our external security agents, including going to our state government houses and the presidential villa every day. And this is somebody who is really known as a foreign agent. What is he doing in Julius Berger? Julius Berger is a German-Nigerian company, but this is a Briton. So he's scrutinizing us, doing everything, and he has already positioned himself in such a way that all the strategic security units are being managed by foreigners. So look at the widespread of Julius Berger. So when we are discussing insecurity in Nigeria, are we looking at these measures at some point as one of the forms of the insecurities in the country? Do we know what these people interact with? I'm just giving one singular example. By the time we dig further, you find out that we have a wider scope of them in the nation, looking at us, watching us, giving their home office informations that we as citizens don't have. So, will the British government allow a Nigerian to be head of security and compliance? It's not possible. They would never try it. So, why are we doing it when the immigration laws are there? The Constitution is there. The criminal law and criminal code is there against the same thing. Then the executive order of the president is even there. And I don't think this executive order has been written off by the new president, because it was just Buhari's government to his government now. And since there is no other executive order, why are these people still operating in our country? And tomorrow we call ISWAP. Next tomorrow we call Lakurawa. Next tomorrow we call Boko Haram. The other day we call Destin. We don't even know how they are being financed. So don't you think these structures could be the structures financing them? Because Julius Berger is a wider company.
They recently did a shake-off from the top management and all of this concern, which has grown attention with the federal government as well. And those that are really having a concern, the factors leading to this shake-off probably includes strained government contract and policy shift, which has a lot of implications for Nigeria's construction sector.
Well, if they have a shake-up, the shake-up, has it affected the leadership of the company, from the MD down to the head of security? Do they know the implication of a foreigner heading as a head of corporate security and compliance?
So there are a lot of implications to that.
Yes, it has a lot of implications. Because this is somebody who is visiting the IG. This is somebody who is visiting the DG SSS. This is somebody who is visiting the DG NIA. It's the same person visiting the defense and military. So what do you expect such person? Did you know the information he's getting every day? Would they allow it in their country? So what agency is he representing? Is he representing the Nigerian interest in the company, or is representing on other countries' interest and other agencies of that country? This is what we have to look at. That is the major concern for now. So we have to do something to make sure this did not take place further. And we have so many of them. I'm not just talking of Julius Berger alone. I'm just using Julius Berger as a study, a case study.
But in the bid, those are really having a concern about their dedications to community satisfaction, because if they are concerned, a concession that if you are operating in Nigeria, this is what you ought to do. Your corporate responsibility. This should be quarters for some to Nigerians, and where you are residing. Would that not be more concern?
When you say the quota and the country you are residing, I want to get it to, or drum it out, that we should first of all look at the Nigerian interest. What is the Nigerian interest? Remember when Uganda was invaded, that the 90 minutes in Tibet, what happened? How did the Israelis got the drawings and the mapping of the airport? It was because it was built by Solomon, which is an Israeli construction firm that work in Uganda. So you can see how they entered the Uganda airport. You can see how they rescued their people from Uganda. And that can happen here, because we have sold everything to Julius Berger in the name of some interest. And to crown it all, apart from the designs of most of the tactical areas or critical areas in the hands of Julius Berger, the head of security is also a foreigner. So what happens to retired military officers, policemen, and other security service sectors officers?
What we engage?
Are they not qualified, and are they not expert in those fields? Are you saying that it is only a foreigner that will come in to become head of corporate security and compliance? And if you move on further to other privileged organizations, it is the same thing. So it is right time for the security network to go around and look at what depth of injury or hurt we have caused ourselves by engaging these foreign partners in our security web. Because you cannot be head of corporate security and compliance without interacting with the Commissioner of Police, the zonal AIGs, the IGs, the DGs of SSS, the directors of the state commands. You cannot be there without interacting with the Controller General of Immigration and his other officers. You cannot be there without interacting with the Commander General of Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, so all the agencies. So, and you cannot be there without interacting with the DG NIA. So all the service sectors, you are interacting with them. So what else did you have, including the military, the defense intelligence, the military intelligence, and the chief, the principal officers in the military and the defense. So to me, we have sold out what could be what we are supposed to be. Our administrative system, our management system, our operational system has quickly been sold out.
Major concern, right, Professor Ibrahim Ado, for joining us and, of course, giving us a brief insight. The policies introductions without adequate consultations probably point to lack of coordination and foresight, which hampers the effective migration governance and management in Nigeria. We are being faced with significant migration challenges, both internally from forced migrations and all of those concerns. Of course, we are looking at the internal, some of these internal concerns shared by Professor Ibrahim Ado. Thanks so much for joining us on the show tonight.
Thank you.
And giving us an insight. This is where we'll wrap it up here tonight, everyone, on the show, Big Talk. We do hope to have you again join us tomorrow as we extra a concern about Nigerian relations. It's still a major concern there. Some part of the north are still caught with all of these crises, a concern about the international relations between Nigeria and Niger. Tomorrow on the show, we'll be looking at that, assessing the impact so far on the socio-economic life of the people of these areas. Do well to join us tomorrow, same time on Global TV. Bye-bye for now.